nurse, I'm an x-ray tech, I'm a science person. I am balanced and grounded. But I knew what it was. I knew what happened to me. My name's Judy Goldschmidt, and I'm here to share my experiences with non-human intelligences. It began for me in February 1995 in Maui. My husband and I were on vacation, and one night I went to bed with a sunburn on my back, and my husband had slathered aloe gel all over my back. And I asked him to tuck pillows behind me so that I would not sleep on my back because I knew that would be painful. But sometime in the middle of the night, I came awake. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I have to get up and go pee. But it's gonna hurt because I'm on my back. I really have to get up and go. So I opened my eyes. And right before me, not a half a foot from my face, was another face. It was a large face with large, dark, almond-shaped eyes. Skin that looked like granite. It was grainy, pinkish gray, like squid skin. And I looked at it, and I screamed, and I leapt out of bed, waking my husband, who turned on the lights and went searching through the room, checking the locks, checking the bathroom. We stepped out on the lanai. There was nothing there. Whatever it had been, must have been a dream, or so I told myself. The next day, I spoke to someone, and I told them that I had picked up a piece of pumice stone down at the beach to bring home to my young son. And they said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's really bad. The island gods will be mad at you." So then I thought, well, maybe that was like an Easter Island kind of face looking at me. Maybe it was the island god come to me, threatening me and telling me I better return that piece of stone. So my husband went off to his lecture, and I went down to the beach where I'd picked up the stone, and I knelt in the sand. I said a prayer to ask forgiveness. I said, "Please forgive me for taking that which was not mine. Forgive my ignorance. I am sorry." I left the stone there, and I went back to my day. That night, I had a dream. I stood at the base of a tall waterfall. There were black pools of water that descended down the hill from me. There was a line of people to my right, and I looked along the line of people, and it looked as if they were ascending up the side of the cliff. There was a music in the air, a humming, like like this, and I could feel it in my body, like a humming. It sounded like string instruments playing a single note, just sustained. And it was mesmerizing. And I felt like I was in a dream. I looked along the line of people, and it ascended up the cliff on my right. And I could see at the top of the cliff, there were 4 tall white beings. They were luminescent, as if lit from within. They were wearing long white robes. And I could see, as each person approached them, one of them would step forward and put a flower lei over their head. I didn't know what was going on. I just accepted that I was there and waited in line. And when it came to be my turn, and I was in front of the 4 white beings, there was one in particular whose eyes I gazed into. I could feel that she was female. She had eyes that were human-like. She had a sclera, the white part of your eye, but they were overly large, round eyes, in a paper white face, and very delicate features, a pointed chin. And if she had hair, it was very thin and very pale. But I feel like she had a veil and she had a tunic, and she was all white, paper white. But I gazed into her eyes, and what I felt coming from her was an unconditional love, just love. Like I belonged to her, she belonged to me kind of love. And she placed the flower lei over my head, and the music overtook me, and the beautiful sense of love and the vibration is how the dream ended. The next day when I woke up from this dream, I was happy. I thought, wow, the island forgave me. I did the right thing. I returned the stone, and now the island is happy with me. I was relieved. The next day, my husband and I had decided we were going to go up to Haleakala to see the sunrise over the crater. We had to leave at 4 in the morning, and we drove in our own car that we rented. We went to the sunrise. It was beautiful. And then after that, we decided that we wanted to drive over to Hana. And we drove across the 51 hairpin turns, the bridges, and we arrived in the town of Hana, refilled our engine, and we went to the falls. And we had to hike about 2 miles up this gorge through bamboo forest with a clicking sound. And when we emerged from the bamboo forest, we came into a clearing, and I saw before me exactly the scene that I had seen in my dream the night before. It was the tall falls, there was the cliff on the right, there were the pools that descended from the falls. And my husband was happy to be there because it was really hot and he wanted to go for a swim, and I was like, hey, wait, this is where my dream was. This is the place where my dream was. I was really excited. I'm like, you don't understand. This is where my dream was. This is exactly it. And he was like, that's nice, baby. Let's go for a swim. It's like, okay. But I was just mesmerized that I was in this place in my dream, and it felt so real. And I was looking at the cliff, and I was looking for the ledge that we all ascended, but I couldn't quite see that there was a clear ledge that you could walk up. But it was that real. I knew I'd been there. There was a group of guys that were there. They told us they were a group of anesthesiologists from Kentucky or someplace. And there was one man in particular named Kyle. He was bald and he was rotund and he had this sweet smile. And he came up to us and he started talking with us. I said that I wanted to go stand in the waterfalls because I saw a lot of people doing that. And my husband was very nervous and he said, you shouldn't do that. If a little stone falls off that falls and hits your head, it'll crack your skull. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. I want to do this. And Kyle's like, don't worry. I'll go with her. And I'm like, handing my camera to my husband. I said, here, take my picture when I get over there. As Kyle and I swim across the pool toward the falls, he said, you look familiar to me. And I said, really? He said, yeah, haven't you been here before? And I said, no, I don't think so. And he said, I must be mistaken. But I had an odd feeling that maybe he had been there when I was there the night before in my dream. I stood in the waterfall and let the water fall on me. It was beautiful. And then Kyle went somewhere, I don't know where. We said goodbye and we were done. We hiked back down the hill. We went to our car. My husband told me that he did not want to drive the 51 hairpin turns back because it was kind of scary. You're on a cliff. So I said, okay, let's see if there's another road. So he asked the ranger, and the ranger was a young man with long hair and probably a joint tucked in his ear, I don't know. Just a cool guy. And he said, there is a back road. It should be okay this time of year. We haven't had rain in a couple of weeks. And I'm thinking, is this paved? Is this a paved road? I mean, I'm driving a Ford Mustang. It doesn't have much clearance, and I really, it's a rental. I don't want to tear out the bottom of the car. I don't want to be leaking oil or gas and get stranded. And he says, don't worry, it'll only take you 4 to 6 hours. And I'm like, okay. So we start out on this road. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. I checked. I always check the time. So we start out on this road at 4:30 in the afternoon, and it does start out paved, and there's homes here and there, and there's farms, and there's cows grazing in their pastures. But pretty soon, there's no more homes, there's no more cows, and the sun is going down. We had one CD with us, REM's Out of Time, and it played over and over and over again. I don't know how many times. And as the sun went down, I realized that our car was beginning to turn to the right and starting to ascend up the mountain. And the sun, which had been directly in front of us, was now on our left. And I looked down at the shore, and the lights of the hotels were starting to come on. And I said to my husband, that's where we need to be. Those are the Wailea hotels. That's where we need to go. We're not going there. And it got dark. It got so dark. There was nothing out there but us and our little headlights. As we're driving, I'm going slower and slower because the pavement has run out, and now we're on a dirt road and it's rutted and there's stones. And I'm going probably 35 miles an hour, avoiding the stones best I can. When my husband says to me, look over there. And I turn my head to my left and I see this enormous white snowy owl. And I'm like looking at this owl, and it seems to be looking directly at me. And its eyes look really large to me. And it's pure white. And I'm thinking, what is a snowy owl doing in Maui? They don't live here. And I look at the owl, I look back at the road. I look at the owl again, and I'm just befuddled. And then the next thing I know, click. My tires are hitting regular pavement. There's houses on either side of me. There's lights, there's street signs. And we come to a corner and it says, turn right for Lahaina, turn left for Wailea Beaches. And I'm like, okay. So we get back to our hotel and we get back in our room. And I look at the clock on my bedside table. It's 4:30 in the afternoon when we left, remember. It is now 4:30 in the morning. We've been driving for 12 hours. I don't know how a Ford Mustang can drive for 12 hours without needing gas. I don't know what happened in those 12 hours. A drive that the guy said should take 4 to 6 hours took us 12 hours to accomplish. We never talked about it again, didn't think about it again. And that was that. We went home after that. A couple weeks later, after we're at home in Syracuse, New York, I'm lying in bed in this new home that we had just built, maybe a year earlier. It was a cute little 2-story colonial with a 2-story foyer. And there was a window in the foyer. And I woke up in the middle of the night. I think it was 3 in the morning. I usually look at the time. But I saw this bright blue-white light outside my doorway, illuminating the hall wall. And I'm like, what is that light? Where is that light coming from? And I told myself, well, maybe it's headlights. And I thought, well, cars don't come directly toward our house in that direction. And the light's not moving. It's a steady, bright, white light. And I closed my eyes. And I opened my eyes again. And there's a figure standing in the doorway. And it's backlit by this bright light. So it's hard to see its features. But it's very tall. And it's very skinny. Its head is just about at the top of the doorway. And it's kind of a triangular head. And it's a very skinny body. And its arms are bent at an odd angle, like this. And I'm thinking, what is this I'm looking at? What is this? And I'm waking up more and more, but I'm also wanting to go back to sleep. So I close my eyes again. And then I open my eyes, and there's 2 beings standing in the doorway. Tall, skinny beings. And I'm starting to become afraid. And I'm waking up more And I want to reach out to my husband who's lying next to me, and I want to shake him. I want to say, wake up, there's something in the room. But I find that I can't move, I can't speak. All I can move are my eyes. And I'm looking at these two things in my room, and I don't know what they are. Aliens aren't something I've ever thought about, read about. It's not in my life. And I close my eyes again because it's just too hard to keep them open. And when I open my eyes the third time, there are 3 beings in my room. There's one standing in the doorway, and the first 2 are at the foot of the bed. And now I'm fully awake, paralyzed, unable to speak, and I'm watching them come along the foot of my bed to the left side of me. And the first one comes up right next to me, right up about at my hips. And he extends his arm like this. And he has these long hands and long segmented fingers, like 5 segments. And he takes one finger and he puts it in my nose and he pushes my head back into the pillow. And it hurts, it's sharp, but I can't scream, I can't move, I can't even raise my hand to knock him away. I can do nothing. And I'm terrified, and I don't know what's happening, but I know it's real. It's not a dream. I'm awake. I am completely awake. And this goes on for a moment, and then it stops. And I close my eyes and I go back to sleep, and it's over. When I wake up in the morning, my nose is draining profusely on that side. It's like I have allergies or a bad cold. My eye is pink and just watering. And I tell my husband, who's getting ready for work now, that I think I had a spider crawl into my nose. And I start blowing my nose, trying to get this out because I could feel there was something in there. And that feeling was awful. It was like, I want to get this out. It was like it was almost a panicked feeling that I had. I wanted to get this out. There was something in there that didn't belong. Foreign body. There was a foreign body in my nose, and it needed to come out. And for 3 days, my nose drained, and I blew it. And my friends that saw me were like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I think a spider crawled into my nose, and I can't get it out." A year or 2 later, I'm having really terrible TMJ symptoms. The temporal mandibular joint is where your mandible sits right here. It's your jaw. My jaw had become dislocated. I was at work. I was an X-ray tech, and when it happened, it felt like somebody had hit me in the back of the head with one of the big X-ray film cassettes that we used to use. And I looked around and I said, "Did somebody just hit me in the head?" They're like, "No." But my jaw was dislocated. I had to go to the doctor. And I was afraid I was going to have surgery. They were telling me I should have surgery. But before I could have surgery, they needed to take X-rays. I'm an X-ray tech. My husband's a radiologist. He has a partner who I also worked with, who everybody knew. Everybody kind of laughed at him because he told people that he had been taken by aliens when he was a child, him and his sister. And he grew up in the Hudson River Valley area, and I grew up not far from there. And he told me, after we got to know each other a little bit at work, he told me, "I know you. I've seen you on the ships. We were there when we were children." And my mind totally rejected it. I'm like, no, certainly not. That's not a thing. I'm sorry. So we have the X-rays. And I'm in the reading room with my husband. He's standing behind me, and his partner's sitting in the chair. We put up the films. And I look at him and I say, "It's right here. It's right here." We look at the films, and there's a little white dot the size of a grain of rice right there in my maxillary sinus. It's undeniable. It's there. I look at him, he looks at me, he's like, "Oh my God, you have an implant." My husband standing behind me, I felt him jump back when he saw it. But immediately he comes in with his science brain and says, it's just a foreign body. Your body has walled it off and taken care of it. It'll dissolve. It'll go away. But I didn't believe him. Even though I'm a nurse, I'm an X-ray tech, I'm a science person. I am balanced and grounded. But I knew what it was. I knew what happened to me. And it's still there. I never wanted it taken out. And over the years, I've come to believe that it helps me. It's actually helped with healing in my body. When I get really badly hurt, like my shoulder, I fell on the ice 2 years ago, and I ruined the labrum of my shoulder, and the doctor said I needed to have surgery, but I didn't want surgery. I went through 8 months of PT, and for 3 months, it hardly helped at all. And then one night, I asked for a healing. Before I went to sleep, I prayed for a healing. That night, I had a dream that there was a humming, buzzing. And I woke up, and I looked behind me, and there were 4, what my mind told me were tall honeybees, about 3 feet tall, honeybees, and they were buzzing, humming, and they were working on my shoulder. And my next appointment with my PT guy, he says, I can't believe how much better your range of motion is. It's like overnight. And of course I didn't tell him why, but I thought I knew why. And I know it sounds crazy, but this is my experience. In 1997, we moved away from Syracuse into a new home in a new town. And I pretty much had forgotten about all this stuff that had happened in Maui. Even the implant, I just kind of let it go. I repressed it, say what you want. I wasn't thinking about it anymore. I was living my life. I was trying to get pregnant. I had remarried at 30, and I spent 5 years with infertility treatments trying to get pregnant. I had had a child at 22 in my first marriage easily, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't getting pregnant. I couldn't understand why I would get pregnant and then lose the pregnancy. Within the first 3 months, it would be gone. That happened 4 times. I had an ectopic pregnancy, which had to be removed by surgery. I had a lot of trouble. But finally, we went to Boston and we did IVF, and we came home with twin ovums. So I was growing twins in my belly. This was 1998, fall 1998. I would wake up in the middle of the night, usually 3:15, and I would see a blue light. And I'd be like, what's that? And my mind told me that it was just the light on the VCR or the TV. And I'd be like, okay, and I'd go back to sleep. That happened many times. Even though during the day, if I remembered it, and I checked the VCR, those lights were red and green, not blue. The light was blue. One night I woke up to use the bathroom. I was 5 or 6 months pregnant with twins. I was on strict bed rest. I was only to be in my bed, go to the bathroom, which was about 10 paces from my bed, go to the foot of my bed where we had a little card table where I would eat my meals, and then back to bed. I was on breathing tablets to stop the labor. I needed to take those babies as far as I could. That was my prime objective at that time. One night I woke up and I needed to use the bathroom. I sat up on the side of the bed, and I took a minute so that I wouldn't feel dizzy because I didn't want to fall. I was being very careful because of my babies. I noticed that the window next to my bed, my yard was brightly lit. And I thought to myself, I must be mourning. So I get up, I go into the bathroom, and as I'm standing at the sink washing my hands, I look into the mirror, and I notice I'm looking in the mirror, seeing out the window of the bathroom, and I notice that the sky above the tree line in my yard is dark. And I'm like, that's strange. The sky is dark, but my yard is bright like midday. So I walk out of the bathroom and I go to the larger window in my bedroom next to my bed, and I look out into my backyard. What I see is a tall locust tree that stands behind our sunroom in our yard, maybe 30 feet away from my window where I stand. The trunk of the tree is lit up with a brilliant white-blue light. And I'm just looking at it. And I look up into the canopy of the tree, and what I see are globes of light that are swirling, red, green, yellow, white, blue, and they're swirling like this in the canopy of the tree. And I'm just standing there mesmerized, wondering what this is. And then I start to feel the familiar buzzing sensation around my lips, and it starts to go over my face and then over my head, and then my whole body is humming and buzzing. The next thing I know, I am in that column of light. And two things are happening simultaneously. I am seeing myself in the position of the light in the trunk of the tree, rising. And I'm also seeing myself from the window where I had been standing, watching myself in a reclined position going up this light of the tree trunk. And then I'm in a hallway. Everything is silver. I have the sense that there's two beings standing behind my shoulder just out of the peripheral vision. And I know that I'm not supposed to look at them, but I am looking a little bit around with my eyes. And I'm walking in this curved hallway, and I'm barefoot, and I can feel the floor. And it feels like I'm walking on the back of a whale. It feels alive. And I'm looking to my right. There's rooms on my right, one after another, and they're dark, but there's a blue light that's along the floor. I can see a countertop that like merges with the wall, and little chairs that merge with the floor, and this blue light along the countertop. And I can't really tell that there's a source of light. It's just glowing blue. That same blue that you see, that blue-white light. It's always that light. I can tell that there's movement in these rooms, but I can't see. I'm just looking like this, and they're moving me along, so I don't have time to really look into the rooms. But I sense that there's movement in there. There's something in there. I pass probably 3 or 4 of these rooms until we get to a doorway where they've escorted me to. And when I walk into this room, I walk into an enlarged space, which is larger than the tree could have been. It's like the size of a college gymnasium, and it's pure white. It's like bright white in there. And again, there's a line of people that are standing to my right. And these beings, they take me to the end of the line, and they leave me there. And I'm looking at these people. And I remember a man dressed in a flannel shirt and jeans. I remember a woman in a bathrobe. And I just remember they're standing there like in a dazed state. They're like zombies. They're not talking, they're not moving, they're just standing there in this line. To the left of the line, I see silver shelving like you'd get at Home Depot. And I see these, what I think are book bags. They're like this big. They're parcels of something. And they're sitting on these shelves. And I don't know what they are. And I'm standing in this line, and I'm becoming very agitated because my doctor has told me for the health of my babies, I need to be on bed rest. I cannot be standing up. And I'm getting more and more agitated. And then I'm getting angry. And I'm getting very agitated, and I want to talk to who's in charge. I don't want to be here. I need to go back to my room. I need to lie down. So I break out of the line. And at the end of the line, there's 4 tall white beings. And I walk straight up to them. And I walk up to one of them who was familiar to me. It's the tall white female that I had seen in my dream in Hawaii. And I stood right in front of her, and I looked into her eyes, and I screamed in my mind. I screamed in my mind so hard that my throat felt tight, but I wasn't uttering any sound. And I told her, "You cannot take me like this. You must stop taking me. This is causing me too much stress. These babies are ours. They're not yours. We put them in there. You can't have them. I have to go home." And when I finished my litany, and I calmed down a little bit, and I'm just staring in her eyes, she doesn't say anything to me. She's just staring at me with love and compassion. And that's where the memory ends of my natural memory. Because remember, I was awake when this began. I had been to the bathroom, I'd washed my hands, I stood at the window, I was awake when this started to happen. But now I'm on this ship, and I'm standing in front of this being, and I'm telling her, "I need to go home. You can't do this to me." Under hypnosis, I recovered a little more of the memory, and this is what I saw. She hands me one of the bundles that had been sitting on those shelves. She puts it in my arms, and I look down at it, and it's a baby swaddled in a blanket. It's a baby. And it has overly large eyes, and it's very skinny. But I look in those eyes, and my mother instincts, they kick in. And I know she's mine. She tells me to name her, and I do. I name her Petal. And I know she's my child. So then the beings escort me down away from them, and I realize then that the room also contains a bunch of small round white tables that just grow out of the floor. And there's little white chairs next to them that grow out of the floor. And I sit at one of them. And I notice that there's other people there, men and women, holding little bundles, looking at them, just loving them. And I realize that's why I'm there, is to love her, to give her the human love that I have, that I give to my own children. And I know what I'm doing is important and necessary. And I know that I've agreed to do this. I want to do this. I'm doing this for them because I am them. I've come here for a purpose. They told me. She told me. I am here to bring love, to show compassion, to help others who are having this experience, to understand that we're not victims. This is not happening to us. This is happening for us. And we are here for humanity because humanity is terribly lost right now. We are here for the earth. I'm from a long line of farmers, and we care for the earth. We grow things. We love nature. We nurture animals. We love our children. We love this earth. We're of the earth, but we're also of the stars. My father used to say, "I'm not from here. I'm from up there. I'm from the stars. I don't fit in here." This is a man born in 1942. He was a man's man. He owned an excavating business. He was a farmer's son. He was a Presbyterian. And yet he knew he was from the stars. And he also had experiences. And this is my story. I hope it helps someone. Thank you for listening.